Before we get into the real work of dodge and burn, I want to take the time and talk about the different methods and tools for dodge and burn. I'll talk about the whole range of methods and tools for work and modifications. Some I'll just mention, while with others, I'll show you how to use them to get professional level work for unique results. The first method involves working with the tools found on the Photoshop toolbar. The dodge tool is ready to use on the left in the toolbar and looks like this. Its role is to shed light on parts of the picture. The downside being that it's difficult to work with and its controls are uncomfortable because it can be difficult to judge just how strong its effect will be and what will be sufficient for our purposes. The burn tool is in the same group as the dodge. Its purpose is to obscure everything you use it on. But, as with dodge, this tool has controls and options that are inconvenient to work with. And you can have a hard time getting the results you want, and it'll certainly take you a lot of time. The sponge tool aims to enhance or remove some of the color of the selected area of the image. It's in the dodge and burn group of tools, and there's a good reason why this tool is there. It's because that when using these tools and other dodge and burn techniques, if used excessively, color distortion may occur in the area where we're working. The sponge tool helps to correct these side effects. But I'll introduce you to better working methods that will solve this problem in a much easier and more accessible way. Speaking of other methods, it's time to talk about a brush that combines all the existing tools in itself, and from now on, this will be the tool that I will use. The second method, which is quite popular among beginners, is to use a black and white brush on a layer that is filled with 50% gray and with soft light selected in blending options. In general, for this layer to work, it doesn't need to be filled with any color, but we use gray to actually see what we've drawn and where it was used. The purpose of the white is to lighten the dark areas, and the black brush aims to darken the light areas of the photo. In general, this method of working was very popular years ago among beginners because more and more people used it in the free YouTube retouching tutorials. But over time, and the thousands of photos I've worked on, I found that its disadvantage was that, first, the effects of it become more drawn on and the photos begin to look like a picture rather than a photo, and the realism of the photo blurs and becomes a kind of digitally drawn object rather than a photograph. The second is that it's much more difficult when masks are not added to these layers to achieve the flexibility to add or remove certain areas. Using masks on this type of layer has limitations, and that in and of itself is a problem because our goal is to have 100% flexibility and control over our work. There are other problems that we won't worry about right now and focus on the more important work methods for us. The third method is to use curves or levels, adjustment layers. It's a matter of personal preference which you will use and what works best for you. In this case, we'll use curves, which is the right one to achieve our goals. This method of work is, in my opinion, best suited for artists who want flexibility and control in their work. It has two options that you can use. The first is to manually draw the curve in order to lighten or darken, so that it can modify the spot we want to change. The problem with this method is that we can't always reach the same force of pulling curves and adding light or darkness, and often there's a discrepancy of strength between the light and dark layers, which in turn has the potential to change some of the colors and creates for us extra work to fix the newly created problem. For this reason, because I've already experienced it, I use and strongly recommend the method of working with automatic curves, namely the dodge adjustment layer on screen and burn on multiply. This way, the program always knows when to add as much light to the image as we are working with, minimizing the potential for color distortion, and as a result, to distinguish between the light and dark parts of the image. This option lets you review what we've done so far by looking at which parts of the image we processed after we finished our work, and if we want to virtually present what we have done. We can do this by creating a black background at the bottom. Exclude all other layers that contain masks and transfer their masks to newly created layers of dense colors to show only where the brush has passed. This way, we can show our work and how much detail and precision we used to get these results. Another important feature of mask layers is that you can always blur the mask if needed. You just have to double-click the adjustment layer settings to open the settings window. Then click on the mask, and you will automatically be shown the mask settings, where you can change the density and softness of the mask to remove the lines in it, and a number of other settings that give you a lot of flexibility when working with adjustment layers. Let's take a minute on how we can actually use this tool to manipulate and construct a 3D object. We will make and draw a ball with a light source to achieve a three-dimensional effect using only this method. This is an excellent example of what Dodge and Burn can do. For this step, we'll use the Circle Marquee tool to create an ordinary sphere. To make it a 3D object, of course, there must be a light source and various shades of shadows. Choosing that our light comes from this direction means that the shadows will fall in the opposite direction. The object should be quite pronounced. Therefore, with the help of this retouch technique, we can at the same time create depth and expressiveness of the image. Whether it's a portrait, a landscape, or a photograph of a product, it works in every case. This method of operation allows us to add light and shade to the places we feel most appropriate for greater definition and sharpness. Later, I'll show you how you can use it on our work photos. I very much hope that you will enjoy your upgraded Photoshop skill set after taking part in this course. And with a little practice, you will have the opportunity to make any types of changes to your photos and ones that you can be proud of.